When I was about 12 years old, I used to put my head inside the freezers at the supermarket. And I know that sounds crazy, I bet I looked crazy, but I was actually trying to do something very specific. I was trying to feel what it was like to be a video game character. The character was Dr. Neo Cortex, Crash's arch nemesis, the mad scientist who'd been trying to kill him since 1996. The game was Crash Twinsanity from 2004. And before you even reach the main menu, there's a shot of Cortex, frozen solid inside a block of ice, drifting slowly towards Insanity Beach. That was it. That was the thing I wanted to be inside badly enough to stand in a supermarket aisle with my head in a freezer, feeling the cold, pretending I was him. And I did it more than once, but it was never really about Cortex. I didn't want to be him, I wanted to be where he was. There was something about that seemingly innocuous moment that made me want to escape into the game. And here's what took me 20 years to notice. That moment isn't a level. There's no objective, there's nothing to collect, no one to defeat, nowhere you need to go. It's just a man, frozen in ice, floating slowly toward an island in a series built around running forward as fast as you possibly can. Out of everything in Crash Bandicoot, the moment I wanted to climb inside was the one where nobody moved at all. And I think the answer why has something to do with the quality that Crash Twinsanity never set out to create, but somehow created anyway. Comfort. This is the strange comfort of Crash Twinsanity. Twinsanity was never supposed to be funny. By 2004, Crash Bandicoot had been out of his creator's hands for years. Naughty Dog, the studio that built him, walked away after Crash Team Racing in 1999. Universal owned the character, and since then, Crash had been passed from one developer to another. Eventually, he landed with Traveller's Tales, a British studio that had already made one Crash game and were about to make something very unlike it. What they started building was initially called Crash Bandicoot Evolution. It was darker, more serious, a different game entirely. Then another studio, Insomniac, released Ratchet & Clank, a game that shared enough of Evolution's premise that Traveller's Tales scrapped their direction, restarted production, and pivoted hard the other way, into comedy. Even the name was a scramble. The working titles included Unlimited, Fully Fluxed, and Twinsane. Twinsanity was settled on with minutes to spare, right before the deadline set by their publisher, Vivendi. So before a single level had shipped, this was already a game knocked sideways. A serious project turned silly, its direction had been abandoned, its name had been chosen against the clock, and Traveller's Tales were trying to build a world around a character they hadn't created. And that's the pattern. Twinsanity kept turning into something nobody had planned for it, and it wasn't done yet. For 8 years, Crash Bandicoot was a game that wanted you to keep moving. You ran forward, you ran toward the camera, you followed a path, jumped over whatever was in front of you, broke your crates, and kept going. The older games had hub rooms, but they were really just menus with a floor, somewhere to stand while you picked the next level, not places you were expected to inhabit. Everything was built around momentum. Keep going, don't stop, don't fall. Twinsanity broke that. Suddenly, you could move in all directions. You could travel from one area to the next without a loading screen or a menu. The world simply carried on, and the hubs stopped being selection screens and started being places, layered, sprawling, full of side paths and corners that nothing was forcing you to visit. And to be clear, Twinsanity isn't an open world game in the traditional sense. It's a collection of interconnected free-roaming areas, but it was probably the closest Crash had ever come to simply letting you wander. And that change was deliberate. Traveller's Tales wanted to open Crash's world up. Reviewers noticed it immediately. Compared with the older Naughty Dog games, Twinsanity felt less confined, less claustrophobic, and I think that's important. Because the openness does something to the way you experience the world. Take Papu Papu's village in Totem Hokum. If you played the original trilogy, you know Papu Papu. He was a boss fight. You entered his arena, beat him, and moved on. But in Twinsanity, his village is somewhere you walk through. There are villagers, There's a waterfall, there are balls, and they'll charge you if you get too close, so it's not exactly tranquil, but that's not the point. Papu Papu stopped being an encounter and started being a location. That's the whole difference, and it fits in one line. Classic Crash says move. Twinsanity says stay. But space on its own doesn't make somewhere feel like a place. You can stand still in 100 games and feel absolutely nothing. What makes Twinsanity different is what you can hear while you're standing there. There is not a single instrument in Crash Twinsanity. No guitars, no drums, no orchestra. Every sound in that soundtrack is a human voice. The music was written by the Los Angeles a cappella group Spiral Mouth, recorded and mixed by Gabriel Mann, and once you know that, you can't stop hearing it. There's an iconic section where Cortex is being chased by a swarm of bees, and the music playing underneath it is an a cappella cover of Flight of the Bumblebee, the frantic classical piece everybody's heard, except this time, it's being sung by people. And somehow, it works. Because it gives the world a strange, human quality. It doesn't sound like a conventional orchestral video game score. It sounds performed, almost like the world itself has a voice. And what's interesting is that wasn't necessarily what they were trying to achieve. There's an interview with Rebecca Newell, one of the members of Spiral Mouth, where she talks about the brief they were given for the soundtrack. They were told to make it weird, funny, wacky. That was the instruction. Nobody asked for warmth, nobody asked for comfort. They wanted something strange, and Spiral Mouth gave them something strange. But the soundtrack doesn't just make the game stranger, it gives its places an identity. The music changes depending on where you are, and sometimes even who you're playing as. The Academy of Evil, for example, has different music depending on whether you're playing as Crash or Cortex. Same place, different character, different music. The world sounds different because you are different, and that's part of what makes Twinsanity feel so alive. And plenty of people hated it, I'm not going to pretend otherwise. Reviewers in 2004 called it repetitive. One described it as insanely annoying music that doesn't fit. If you go looking, you'll find people who think it's the worst thing about the game, which honestly makes the whole thing even more peculiar. The brief said weird, the critics said annoying, and yet for me, 20 years later, the same weirdness has become part of what makes the game feel like home. That's the strange thing about Twinsanity. The camera in Crash Twinsanity is bad. Not charmingly bad, just bad. It was one of the most common complaints when the game came out. Reviewers called it dodgy and uncooperative, and time has not been kind to it. Then there's Aku Aku. On Insanity Beach, he floats there, waiting, and every single time you walk past him after you spawn, he says his line.
It is I, Aku Aku.
Every time.
Call me thrice.
I replayed this recently and it drove me up the wall. And then there are the cutscenes. You can't skip them. So if you die just before a checkpoint, you don't only replay the section, you sit through the whole scene again first. And most of the scenes are genuinely funny. Cortex is brilliant. The performances are full of personality, and at the time, reviewers singled him out as one of the game's highlights. So the first time you watch a scene, you laugh. The second time, you don't mind. By the 12th time, you're ready to throw your controller at the screen, and everywhere else, you can find little reminders that the game was running out of time. There was a level called Gone a Bit Coco, set inside the mind of Crash's sister. It was cut because production had gone too far along to guarantee it could be finished and run without crashing. There was also a version of Cortex who wasn't evil. He never made it into the game, but his concept art survives as something you can unlock inside the finished one. Which is a strange thing to find, a picture of something that doesn't exist. Crash also had a punching move that was removed because it could accidentally destroy parts of the scenery. Even the soundtrack has cut content. Rebecca Newell said the funniest piece they wrote for the game was never used. A bizarre a cappella Buddy Holly song. You can feel all of this while you're playing, not as a list of missing features, just as a sense that you're walking around inside a world that was still being assembled when the clock ran out. The seams were showing, and strangely, I think that may be part of why the game became so lovable. Insanity Beach is the first place this game gives you, and it's bigger than it needs to be. There are things in it, gems to find, little chickens wandering about, but almost none of it is asking anything of you. Nothing is herding you toward an exit. You can walk down to the edge of the water and stand there, and the game will let you. You can hang out by Crash's hut and watch as the rays of sun pierce through the trees and scatter across the ground, and just enjoy the serenity. Here's what I think happened. They built these spaces to be filled. That was the plan. Big open areas with things in them, reasons to be in every corner, a playground. And then the game ran out of time, so the space stayed. Some of what was meant to go in it never arrived, and that changes what a space is. A space full of tasks is a level. A space that isn't is somewhere you can just be. And when I was a kid, that mattered more than I realized. The emptiness gave my imagination somewhere to go. Because when a game is packed with things to do, it's also telling you what to do, and to a degree, what to look at, what to care about, where to go next. Twinsanity left gaps. I imagined exploring the island with Crash, swimming beneath the waterfall, wandering around places the game never actually asked me to visit. None of that is in the game, I put it there. And that's why those memories are still so strong 20 years on. They're not really memories of the game, they're memories of what I made inside it. Which brings us back to the strange image from the beginning. A man frozen in a block of ice, drifting towards Insanity Beach. Nothing is happening. There's no objective, no enemy, no joke, no platform to jump on. It's probably the emptiest moment in the entire game, and somehow that's the moment I wanted to climb inside, because there was nothing telling me what I was supposed to do, so I could imagine anything. It wasn't in spite of the emptiness, it was the emptiness. And the same thing happened with the music. Remember the brief? Weird, funny, wacky. Nobody asked for warmth, but put that strange human soundtrack over an open space with nothing chasing you and nowhere you have to be, and something changes. You stop hearing it as something strange, you start hearing it as the sound of the place itself. Two different parts of Twinsanity, two different sets of intentions. Neither was designed to create the feeling I'm talking about. The space was deliberate, the emptiness wasn't, and the feeling that came from it, nobody designed that at all. Twinsanity is short. It's unfocused. And once you've finished it, there's not much reason to play through it again. Those are fair criticisms, and I think they're revealing because they're measuring something Twinsanity was never particularly good at. Replayability asks a simple question. Is there more here to master? More to collect? More to optimize? More to conquer? And Twinsanity doesn't have much of that. But that's not why I went back. I wasn't returning to Twinsanity to get better at it. I was returning to somewhere. And that's what I think the usual criticism misses. Which brings me to something slightly embarrassing. I replayed Twinsanity recently. I'm in my 30s, and I still walk around the Academy of Evil imagining what it would have been like to go to school there. I'm not joking. There's a fountain in the middle of the grounds and classrooms you can walk into, and I can't stop myself from thinking about how awesome it would have been to go to class with Engine and Cortex as we learned how to become evil scientists. I'm a grown man. I did that recently. And it's also why I don't think this is simply nostalgia. Nostalgia is remembering how something used to feel, but this still works. I went back in my 30s, and I had the same experience now as I did when I was 12. There's not much left for me to master in Twinsanity, but there is still somewhere to go. Traveller's Tales wanted to keep going. They had already started imagining what a sequel to Twinsanity could look like. One of the artists on the game, Keith Webb, has talked about an idea where Cortex delivers a television to Crash's house, disguised as a gift. Crash switches it on and gets pulled inside. Every level would be a different television show, a Wild West one, an old black and white cartoon, even a hospital drama with enemies coming at you carrying needles. It sounds completely ridiculous, which is exactly why it sounds like Twinsanity, but it never got made. And there was another idea that would have continued the story too, a kart racer. set inside Crash's own head with tracks based on his dreams and memories. It was intended as a direct continuation of Twinsanity, but Vivendi took the project away from Traveller's Tales and gave it to Radical Entertainment. What came out of that was Crash Tag Team Racing. The story moved on, and then the franchise moved with it. Traveller's Tales version of Crash was gone. The next game, Crash of the Titans, was built around a completely different direction with a completely different feel. And that's the strange thing. Twinsanity didn't disappear because nobody liked the idea of an open world Crash. If anything, that was one of the things critics had responded positively to. It disappeared because Crash went somewhere else, and this particular version of him didn't go along. For years, that seemed to be the end of it, until fans started digging it back up. They're not just remembering it, they're rebuilding it. There's a fan project restoring the cut content, including Gone a Bit Coco, the level that got pulled because there wasn't time to finish it. They have it running in a modern engine. There's a whole community around this game now, modding it, digging through what's left of it, and there's something almost perfect about the name they've given that project. Evolution, the name Twinsanity had before it became Twinsanity. When I was 12, I couldn't have explained any of this. I didn't know that Twinsanity had been rushed. I didn't know about the levels that were cut or the ideas that never made it into the game. I didn't know that those empty spaces were never supposed to be quite so empty. I just knew that I wanted to be there. I wanted to wander around Insanity Beach. I wanted to explore the academy. I wanted to hear that strange music and see what was around the next corner. And maybe that's what Twinsanity accidentally gave me. Not a perfect game, not even necessarily a great one. It gave me somewhere to imagine. So I'm curious, did Crash Twinsanity give you a place like that? Not your favorite level, not necessarily the best part of the game, but the place you would wander into for no reason at all, and just stay there. Maybe you explored somewhere the game never asks you to explore. Maybe you made up stories that weren't actually there. Maybe, like me, you did something slightly ridiculous in the real world because you wanted to feel closer to it. I've already admitted to the freezer. You're safe here. Tell me about yours in the comments. And if you've made it all the way to the end of a video about the emotional properties of an unfinished PlayStation 2 platformer, you are exactly who this channel is for. Subscribe to join the Squidz Squad today. I'm Dandana Squidz, and this is the home of retro, classic, and nostalgia gaming. Much love, fam. I'll see you in the next one.